Chapter 89 to 94. It looks good, I'll give you 4,500 lean. 4,500? I rolled my eyes. Why don't you just rob me? 10,000, I countered. I can't make a profit with 10,000, it's gotta be 5,500 at the most. 9,500. 6,000. Look, can we just skip this song and dance and meet at 7,500? I offered. And throw in an old scroll. I thought for a moment, looking around. Also, I'll take a small box of your fire dust. I pointed over to a display with several vials of dust shown off. He mulled that over for a moment. Fine, it's easy lean even if it takes a bit to sell, and you can pick out one of the old scroll models, he grumbled, giving me a stack of money from this world. I pushed a small stack of gold coins his way. Pleasure doing business. I happily accepted the money and walked out of the little pawn shop, new phone in hand. Granted, it wasn't called that here, but that was pretty much what it was. A scroll. I walked past one of those stores that explicitly only sold these items, as well as seeing people walking around with them. It wasn't hard to put two and two together to realize it's their version of phones. Pretty neat, I'm excited to see how it works. Found this place fast after I left that airport or whatever they call that here as well. Unfortunately, gold isn't as valuable here as it is in other worlds. While still a precious metal that most would kill over, I would say it only retains about a third of its value compared to Earth. Maybe I would be better off selling some jewels and jewelry. Regardless, I doubt I can keep going around selling gold without attracting attention, probably going to need to find a secondary source of revenue because there are many things I plan on buying and I have to fully explore this place. Walking out the place, I did remember a bookstore I passed about a block down. Tuckson's Book Trade, every book under the sun. I muttered, staring at the sign outside. Sounds like my kind of place. The little bell on the door signaled me walking inside. The owner behind the counter immediately perked up to look at me. Welcome, feel free to browse or ask if you want anything specific. He gave a smile that I couldn't help but notice the sharper teeth. Interesting. Thanks, just browsing for now, but I'll probably ask for a few things later. I gave a polite reply as I made my way into the rows of bookshelves. Oh man, I love this feeling, so many things I simply don't know, and they're all here, available for me. I pulled a random book off the shelf, Ninjas of Love 3. I'm sure you could learn a lot from that book. I rolled my eyes and pulled open a random page, flipping through a few until I stopped and read a quick passage. Wow. I whispered. I mean, he was being sarcastic, but he wasn't wrong. Oh, that is some surprisingly hardcore porn for a book with that name. And how would you know that? I've seen your memories. Touché. Let's just put that away for now. What else? Fiction, fiction, and more fiction. Ah, here we go. Proper handling of dust. Not exactly what I was looking for, but anything is good right now. I began taking a few more books off the shelves here or there, before deciding to put one or two back. The nature of aura. What semblances mean, a look into our souls. The history of veil. A few looked a bit dry, but I wanted to know some more about this place. I hefted my stack of books up and brought them up to the counter. Tuckson sat up straight, pushing a book he had open to the side. Ho. He smiled. Found everything you wanted? More or less. Unless, you got anything more scientific on the nature of dust, aura, semblances, and grim? He blinked for a moment, seemingly mulling over my question. I do have a few things in the back, some textbooks and some other stuff. They don't really sell, so I didn't set them out. Oh, wonderful. I was happily surprised. He stepped away, only to return a moment later with 3 more books to add to my pile. Sorry, most people here are looking for fiction, or the occasional Beacon student wanting to find a textbook secondhand. When does the next year start? I knew very little about Beacon, figured I should know a thing or two since the topic has come up a couple times now. Time really flies. What month is it now? He looked up, lost in thought for a moment. Should be about 8 months give or take. This current year is wrapping up, most classes are pretty much done, but end-of-year exams and things like that usually take up a bit of time. That's probably why I saw a bunch of kids with weapons walking around. Ah, newcomer. He rubbed his chin. Yeah, Beacon kids aren't a rare sight, and it's pretty easy to pick them out of a crowd. But around this time they all seem to let loose a bit since the school year is practically over. Am I that easy to read? I gave a small smile. Came from outside the city, just a small village. I wanted to test my background, see if I needed to amend it at all. Yeah, that'll do it. He nodded. You got that, new guy, look about you. He let out a laugh. At least you ain't snapping your head around like a tourist, pickpockets would be all over you. Well, I do have some street smarts. I chuckled. Good, just stay out of the rougher neighborhoods, most human gangs around here won't bother you past maybe taking some lean, but if you find some faunus with a bone to pick. He sighed. How bad are the racial tensions here? I questioned. I didn't really know what was going on between these faunus and humans, but I could take some depressingly accurate guesses off what he said. Outside of menagerie, probably the best place for faunus, but it's still not great. He frowned. Yeah, I don't really understand it. I shook my head. Got a cute little foxy daughter myself. The hell is menagerie? That sounds like a place, but the name seems kind of offensive. He blinked, a bit of surprise on his face turning into genuine happiness. Really? It's rare for humans and faunus to have children. I just shrugged. Race isn't really a big deal with me, even before I reincarnated and became a half-devil. What do I owe you? I changed the subject. Oh, I almost forgot. He chuckled. Let's see, it should be about 217 lean altogether, let's call it an even 210. 210 it is then, thank you. I happily offered up the money. Please come back if you ever need another book. He replied with a genuine smile on his face. Nice guy. Oh. I stopped before I pushed open the door. Would you perhaps have a good recommendation for somewhere I can sit down and eat with a book in peace? I know several places, any other specific requests? By chance do you know one that would allow a pet to accompany me? Welcome, have you been here before or is it your first time? I was greeted by a woman in, I wouldn't call it a maid's outfit, but it was close. But what stuck out were her rabbit ears on top of her head, completely real as they had a little bounce to them. First time, Tuxin recommended me. I replied. He said that pets weren't frowned on. I tried to gauge her reaction. As long as they aren't too big. She said quietly, perhaps looking for said pet. I of course took off my hat, flipped it upside down and let Sir Wiggles pop his head out. That got a small giggle out of the girl. Right this way. She gestured towards an open table. I let Sir Wiggles out, he happily sat at one end of the table, not running around. I'm Velvet, I'll be your waitress. Her voice wasn't very loud, honestly her demeanor in general screamed unconfident. Can I start you off with anything to drink? I hummed as I opened the menu, look at what they had. I'll start off with the Australian dark roast coffee, 2 sugars and a squirt of milk. Oh, and one of those strawberry pastries. I looked up at Sir Wiggles. And would it be possible to get a small bowl of water and perhaps some veggies for my companion? She actually perked up with a small smile, looking over at Sir Wiggles. I know that feeling all too well, his fluff is hard to resist. I'll get him something from the back. She replied, scribbling a few things down and walking away. Figured Sir Wiggles deserved a treat. I keep stuff in my hat to occupy him, but it might get cramped every now and then. Really need to see about expanding the space or connecting it to my home, especially for when he gets a lady friend. I took out one of the books, it was the textbook on aura. I started reading, but a lot of the material was a bit streamlined, I could only roll my eyes when they just emphasized the power of the soul. I wanted to know more than that, like how was this power activated? How did they discover a way to actualize their soul in the physical world? I was about to close the book when one line caught my attention. While the act of awakening another person's aura is usually one of intimacy and reserved for friends and family, it can be done by any other person with their aura already awakened. Oh, well isn't that interesting? Should I find someone to awaken my aura then? I don't even know if I'm compatible with this mystical phenomenon, and apparently someone needs to poke my soul with their aura for it to happen. A curious thought crossed my mind, how did the first person awaken their aura if it needs someone to awaken it for them? Sir, your coffee and pastry, also I have a small plate of lettuce for your pet. Velvet said quietly, holding a couple plates. Thank you. I smiled at her, mentally reminding myself to give her a decent tip, seems like she needs a win today. I feel like a lot of information is still left out. I closed it for now, most of the remainder was meant for kids studying it under combat intentions, I could already devise many uses of the nature of aura without a book. With a sigh, I took out the book on dust. It was perhaps an equally curious avenue of research when compared to aura. What exactly was dust? I could tell immediately it was somewhat magical in nature, but I didn't delve into that yet. Hell, I could feel the magical energy from the few small vials of the dust I had just purchased. Nature's wrath is what the book described it as, but all I could think about was that it basically mimicked elemental magecraft corresponding to the element of the dust. Red, fire. Blue, ice. Those were obvious for anyone, but the more I read the more I was intrigued. Gravity dust? It seems this dust branched out from just the basic elements. Curiouser and curiouser, I bet Gramps would love to get his hands on some of this in fact. Please don't move those. I looked up to see Velvet trying to rein in a few guys pulling chairs from all over as they put 2 tables together so they could all sit down. Why are we even here? They let animals just walk around. He swept his gaze around, eyes landing on me. The others seemed to notice as well. Sir, the policy. Oh hey, there's a rabbit in here too. He cut her off much to the laughter of his friends. They were calling Velvet an animal. Annoying. I slid my foot across the around, pulsing magical energy all into the floor. I targeted a leg on the idiot's chair and overloaded it. A small crashing sound and he rolled on the ground as the chair fell backwards. I despise baseless hate like this. If you hate someone, why does it have to be because of something beyond their control? It's just, the pointlessness of it all that really drive home the annoyance in me. I think these chairs have an upper weight limit. I said idly, but my voice carried. The gentleman who rolled on his ass was a bit heavy-set. I wouldn't call him obese and even say he has quite a bit of muscle, but he definitely spends a lot of his time sitting down with a beer in his hand. Velvet stepped away from the fuming racist. He surprisingly didn't direct his annoyance at the target of his racism, instead looked at me, fuming. You think you're funny? My lips curled up. As funny as you are fat. I wonder if that was a nerve for him. Not particularly witty, but this really didn't deserve my best. You some kind of tourist brat? Don't you know who we are? His other friends stood up, following his lead. We don't like your types around here. Did he really just say that? How cliché. Funny, handsome, fit? I hazarded a guess. By the looks of them pulling weapons out, that is indeed not what they meant. I hope some of them had aura. I wanted to stress test that a bit before getting some of that for myself. Really, you draw weapons after a little insult? I rolled my eyes. Did I hurt your feelings? I think my sarcasm was obvious enough to even get through to him. You're going to be hurting a lot more in a second. One of his companions sneered, earning an angry look from the apparent leader. I couldn't help but smile at his comment. I eyed their weapons, not so much from a threat analysis standpoint, but just pure curiosity. They did not look like normal weapons, they reminded me of rubies and by extension, quite a few other hunters. Like they can all take on several different forms by shifting mechanisms. I took a sip of my coffee. From laughter. Otherwise I failed to see how I'll be suffering any kind of pain. Tough talk from a brat with a bunny for a pet. Tough talk from an old man that can't see his dick when he looks down. You're dead, he roared, charging at me with his fist reeled back, some kind of sword in his other. The looks around the room told me they expected me to get quite the beating as his fist approached my face. I just shook my head and held out my index finger, stopping the man's fist from moving any further. A small bit of energy shimmered where my finger touched his fist, the signs of this aura surrounding him. He looked at me shocked when his fist wouldn't budge, even his buddies were speechless. There was a moment of hesitation as the hand holding his sword swept up towards me. Getting a better look I could see a revolving mechanism that held bullets and a barrel on the top side of the blade. So slow, well he had a decent amount of strength behind his fist, all things considered. He probably wasn't putting everything into it, but it was still beyond a normal human's means. I knocked his hand holding the sword/gun away with my other hand, and put quite a bit of strength in my fist as it made contact with his face. His aura exploded on impact, cascading in all directions from the point where I should have met his skin. It wasn't red like rubies, it was yellowish. Is it different based on the person? The kinetic force seemed to seep through somewhat as he stumbled backwards, clutching his face, weapon falling to the ground. Not a perfect defense, I noted. But still, a shield that will maintain itself permanently without nearly any conscious effort on the user's part? Sign me the hell up. Even if it only blocked 1% of an attack's damage, that was still something I wanted to get my hands on. Not to mention it clearly has an effect on their physical abilities. I grabbed his hand before he could recover, twisting it as he let out a scream. It seems aura doesn't protect from this kind of damage, as I got no reaction. Another note to file away. Throws, pins, joint locks, that sort of thing is probably able to get around aura. I yanked up his gun sword with a little bit of telekinesis, getting a firm grip on it. I couldn't help but notice how uneven the weight was distributed. It felt cheap. I shook my head again, stabbing towards his torso, watching as his aura didn't quite distort, but it compensated for the sharp edge and reacted accordingly. Fascinating. Was it a mental calculation on the user's part, or did it react to changes on contact? Perhaps even an unconscious mental change. You idiots, what are you doing? The big lug shouted towards his companions, who were broken from their stupor and started coming towards me. Well, this has gone on long enough. I got enough answers to some questions for now. I threw the gun sword at the closest goon, the handle smacking him in the head. Ducking down, I dodged a fist as I uppercut a second in the jaw, elbowing a third in the side of the head and kneeing a fourth in the stomach. They all fell to the ground groaning in pain. Surprisingly, they did not have aura, so they got quite the little beating. What? The big guy looked at the scene in shock. I looked up to see Velvet staring at the whole thing with a mix of surprise and uneasiness. The way she stood, I could tell she had some amount of training, though I didn't care enough to pry. Was she going to step in if I got hurt? I twisted the guy's arm just a little bit more as he let a pained shout. What do you want? I want a lot of things. I mused. But I'll settle for some information. Particularly, I want to know where I can find someone who can get things. I know a guy. He quickly answered, catching my meaning. I lowered my head as he whispered the information in my ear. With a hum, I let go of him. He shakily stood back up, taking several steps back. I'm curious what the punishment is for someone with aura to attack someone without. He blinked at me in confusion as realization dawned on his face. Why, you don't have aura? Seemingly not believing me. The corners of my lips curled up. I looked around and was thankful that the place was rather empty at the moment, basically just us and the staff. I saw a couple heads poke out from the employee area, not keen on getting involved. Well, why don't you run them pockets? What? Take out your money, you idiot. I rolled my eyes. Are you robbing me? He seemed surprised by this development. I chose not to answer him, walking up as he awkwardly shuffled for his wallet and snatched it out of his hands. I took out his ID, getting a good look before putting it back and taking out all the lean he had and slamming it on the table. Now, fuck off. Alright. He nodded, his goons having recovered at this point. They hastily retreated from the premise. Sir. Velvet quietly tried to grab my attention. Do you want me to call the police? Don't worry about it. I waved her off. It was pretty clearly self-defense, until I robbed him at the end, but whatever. Thank you for the service. I set my own stack of lean on the table, a nice big tip in addition to what the dumbass gave. Take care of yourself, Velvet. I hope she gets some more self-confidence, call it instinct, but she probably could have smacked those idiots around with ease herself. I really dislike that kind of obscene hatred. Grabbing Sir Wiggles, he had finished his plate and was just watching me calmly. Well, I had a lead now. It wasn't that far away, about 7 blocks down, but the area gradually changed to resemble a more night-life kind of vibe. It was still relatively early in the day, so I didn't see anyone out and about beyond just normal matters. The place was rather spacious, only a few sparse people inside as I pushed open the doors, not even a bouncer outside to stop people from coming in. Then again, I doubt the owners would care at this point. If someone wanted to come drink in the middle of the day, more power to them. Well, eyes were on me as I entered, but they turned away after a few good looks. I approached the bar, giving the bartender a once-over. He looked like the description I was given. What can I get you? He lazily put his arms up, giving me a look. I wouldn't mind someone on the lighter side. Got any unique drinks here? I asked. Strawberry sunrise. He grunted, getting the stuff all prepped. While he looked a bit lethargic, his skill was undeniable as he set the drink in front of me. I took a tip and admired the taste. Not bad. I nodded. But I'm here for something else, if you don't mind. Well, no one's gonna be dancing until later tonight. He eyed me warily. So it's going to be like that? I took out 100 lean and pushed it towards him. We do offer some other services. He perked up, pocketing the money. Name's Junior, what can I do for you? I want information. I decided to delve right into it. New to town, wanted to know the rules on getting my aura unlocked. He blinked for a moment, mulling over my question. Technically, it's illegal to offer your services to unlock someone's aura. Honestly, it's a bit like prostitution. If money is exchanged, then it's a no-go, but they can't really moderate consensual acts. Huh, that's a surprising comparison, yet I can believe it. Another question, got anyone who would like to unlock my aura, free of charge, ... I put up air quotes. I do want other things of questionable legality, but this would be a good start. Junior snorted, a small smile tugging on his face. I'd offer to do it, but I don't got much myself. Last time I unlocked someone's, knocked me on my ass all day and I already have a killer headache. I don't really care who does it. I waved my hand dismissively. He rubbed his hand. Well, I do know a guy, he should be around, got a decent chunk of the stuff himself. I doubt he would pass up the easy lien, but the price is up to him. I just shrugged. As long as it's somewhere around reasonable, I don't mind paying a premium. Junior let out a small chuckle. That attitude will get you far around here. He stepped out from behind the bar. Come on, I'll take you to the back. He snapped his fingers, grabbing the attention of what looked one of his employees and gestured for him to take over. He led me to a door to the side, almost unnoticeable. Oh Junior, who's the kid? A man lazing on a couch tilted his head up giving us a look. A client. He grunted. Kid wants his aura unlocked. And you came to me? The man sat up, adjusting a bowler's hat on his head. He had a strikingly orange color of hair, and surprisingly well dressed. I would do it myself, but the last time I passed out the girls drew dicks on my face. Junior deadpanned. The man snorted, a small smile on his face. I'll do it for 400 lien. Done. I didn't even argue. Well, aren't you in a hurry? The man took a cigar out of his pocket, lighting it up and taking a puff. Kid, meet Roman Torchwick, he likes to introduce himself as a gentleman thief. Junior rolled his eyes. Hey, I'll have you know, I am officially not a thief anymore. Roman adjusted his collar, looking rather insulted. Yeah, how long is that going to last this time? Junior sighed. What's this, the third time you had the courts expunge your records? Fourth, actually. Roman smirked. I am officially a free man. Whatever. Junior didn't comment further. Where's your little psycho? Oh, Neo went to go rob an ice cream shop or something. Roman replied, eyes turning back to me. Now, my well-dressed friend, Junior says you want your aura unlocked? Indeed. I admitted, tilting my head as I examined his own clothes. And if it wouldn't be too much trouble, could I get your tailor's name and address? Oh, you can recognize quality. Roman perked up. It's not my particular style, but I can appreciate the high-grade materials and skill that went into its making. The seams of course stick out the most, they are rather elegant in their weave. Roman paused for a moment, a genuine smile on his face. I like you kid. No one ever appreciates the effort I go to look this good. Roman stood up. What's your name? Wilhelm Henry Schweinorg. I introduced myself, maybe with a dash of flair on my end. Wilhelm, I believe this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. So, kid, you want your aura unlocked? Roman sat back on the couch, relatively relaxed. That's the plan. I shrugged, sitting opposite of him. Usually, I don't really care why, but color me interested. You don't really look the huntsman type, and you're definitely not one of those thugs. I could give some reasons, but honestly, why not? I replied. Well. Roman mulled over a thought. Realistically sure. But it does come with some downsides, not that I would ever give up my aura to get away from them. He tapped his cigar on an ashtray. Prison sentences are heavier for aura users, certain taxes for aura users, but on the flip side more tax write-offs for weapons and stuff. He idly started to go over some random details. Heavier regulation on moving across kingdoms, certain licenses needed for certain jobs, but there is also the ability to carry weapons openly without much fuss. Huh, that's a little interesting actually. I rubbed my chin. A society with a mythical phenomenon interweaved into its foundation. The closest I could think of was Skyrim, and that was very underdeveloped technologically, so it was hard to compare. Must make being a thief harder than, the government coming down on you harder because your aura makes it a bit more fun. He smirked. But I'm pretty low on their priority all things considered, especially with the white fang doing their usually idiocy. He adjusted his legs. Really, just stay away from the SDC, government property, and huntsmen, and at most the police will be on my ass. Oh, and don't kill. He made sure to exemplify that point. Murder escalates into Beacon taking notice. If the general public start getting upset about aura users running rampant, Beacon has a sudden interest in taking you down. White Fang, SDCD, some more terms I was unfamiliar with. Perhaps I should browse their version of the internet when I have more time. So, what? Rob a bank, insurance covers everything, no one really takes a hit except those companies who the public already hates, and no one high up really cares enough to blow the issues up. Pretty much, but being too heavy-handed also starts drawing too much attention. If the politicians start looking bad, then they'll start doing stuff for publicity and whatnot. It's one of the reasons I keep my public persona so flamboyant. The public loves to cheer on a criminal, if you get what I'm saying. I was honestly surprised by how well he thought this out. I'm impressed. Roman let out a small chuckle. Been in the game a long time, kid. I learned a thing or two along the way. He sat himself up straight. Anyways. He clapped his hands. I'm sure you didn't come here to hear my life story. Well, it was entertaining if nothing else. I gave a small smile. But yeah, I am a bit excited to see my aura unlocked. Well, you get what you paid for. He stood up walking towards me. It's going to feel uncomfortable, like someone is poking you in places you didn't know about, but then some weird stuff is going to happen. Weird, how weird? Ever done drugs before? Which drugs? All of them. He laughed, putting his hand on my chest. For it is an aspiration that we achieve immortality. As the words left his mouth, I felt something enter my body. I was careful not to interrupt it or cut the connection. The words seemed to die down and silence filled my entire being. My soul, it ignited. The world around me became unimportant as my entire self laid bare. Every part that made me, me. All my flaws and good parts intertwined into the little spark that made my soul, and whatever happened, it burst out into a raging inferno. I saw it. The good, the bad. The ugly, and the beautiful. The parts that weighed heavily on me, and things I thought I had moved on from. All the scars that still persisted, and opposite of them were the pieces that found purpose and affection. All of it was actualized unto the physical world. I almost felt like I could touch the parts of me that were Zelretch, the past life that I regulated to the past. It didn't quite feel so heavy anymore. Everything I had been through before and now, every heartache, every time my heart fluttered. All the pain I felt in the land of shadows, and the happiness I felt when close to those I cherished. The first time I held Meridia close, and the first kiss I shared with Artoria. It all coalesced and enveloped me. I release your soul, and by my hand, set thee free. The whispering of words met my ears, and the world exploded in a kaleidoscope of colors. Shit, kid. I blinked, regaining my composure as my focus came back on the room I was in. I looked towards Roman, who was wobbling back onto his seat. Never seen someone with so much aura before. I stared at my hands, the faintest glimmer of the iridescent colors flowed around them with but thought. That was, wow. Ha ha ha. Roman let out a tired laugh. I heard that adults get hit by it harder than kids, something about seeing yourself as a fully developed person makes it a weird experience, or something, never really cared about the science. I flexed my hands, feeling the newfound power swelling inside me. The comfort and warmness of my actual soul protecting me from harm. What was that chant you used? I regained my thoughts after a moment to ask. Huh? Oh, yeah, I guess you wouldn't know. He rubbed his temples, looking like he had just woken up from drinking all night. It's something kind of personal, I guess, something that needs to resonate with your soul in order to awaken someone else's. Don't really know much about it, but everyone eventually develops their own and they all follow a similar format. Really? Everyone just comes to a similar conclusion on their own? Roman just shrugged. Never cared enough to look into it. More and more stuff to figure out. I feel great. I muttered. What a rush. Ha, I remember my first time. Roman let out another chuckle. The high lasts pretty much all day. But you'll get used to it eventually. He let out a sigh. Shit, kid, you did a number on me. It shouldn't have taken me that much aura to unlock yours, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, you know? I'm not an amateur that would need to brute force it with my entire reserves. should have only need a spark to ignite yours. He let out a breath. I wonder what factors play into one having a lot of aura. Actually, what does the color of one's aura mean? Who knows? Roman shrugged. Never seen one with multiple colors though, pretty neat. Thanks. I finally said. For doing this for me, I know it isn't the most clean job. I mean, he basically touched my soul with his own. He just snorted. I'm not one of those who think it's this. He held his hands out for emphasis, sacred mumbo-jumbo. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but at the end of a day, it's a job. You paid, I delivered, simple as that. Well, that's an interesting perspective I guess. He stood up, his legs less shaky, but he used a cane leaning against the side of the couch to support himself. I can't say it hasn't been interesting, kid, but I'm going to pass out in my bed. If you ever want a job, or maybe you're interested in the darker parts of the city, look me up. You looking to recruit with a job? I raised an eyebrow. I can't say the prospect didn't sound interesting. Hey now, I'm a law-abiding citizen. He smirked. But, as strange as it is, I like you. Can't say that about many people. You remind me a young me, so maybe I'm feeling nostalgic. He evened out any creases in his clothing. But I'm actually just relaxing for now, got nothing planned for a couple months at least, need to let some heat die down and all that. So, what, want to train me to be the next Roman Torchwick? Sorry to break this to you, kid, but you'll never become me. He turned his head. But maybe, just maybe, you can have a fraction of my style and skill. Yeah, get out of here, old man, dot. Youngsters these days, TSK. He smirked again, waving his hand. Hope to see you around, kid. He left, leaving me alone. I realize now that Junior bailed a while ago, not that I cared that much. Sweet Christ, this feeling was euphoria. He said it would only last the day or so, but damn, I wish I could feel this more often. That was an interesting experience. I blinked, realizing that I currently had a dragon inside my soul. So, I may have forgotten about you. I feel all the love. He said dryly. You're lucky I was paying attention. I sort of shifted whatever he was doing away from me, because he almost tried to unlock my aura, dot. Tried being the primary word there. Yeah, don't think that would have turned out well for him. No idea if I would even have this aura, as I'm basically only a soul inside this thing. Yeah, I don't think any of us wants to figure out what would happen there. I sighed, staring at the ceiling. Anything new you noticed? My senses are expanded, and I feel less confined than before. Not like I can break out or anything like that, but like my jail cell increased in size. Feels pretty nice actually. Huh, I'm happy you're feeling better then. I said genuinely. Now though, I honestly need to give this a test. Actually, we should probably check the boosted gear too, make sure it's still fine. That is a valid point, but I feel like you just want to come out and play. Yeah. You're not even going to deny it. I chuckled. Well, thankfully this world has lots of things to punch, and I really wanted to investigate these grim firsthand anyways. You get all sorted. Junior rested his head in his palm as he leaned on the bar, giving me a look when I left the back area. Yeah, Roman is a bit out of commission though. I replied. Junior let out snort, a small smile on his face. Well, good thing I didn't do it. He sat himself up straighter. Well, I introduced myself before, name's Junior, I know a few things if you got the lean. I thought for a moment, putting some more lean on the table. Know anywhere close by where I can go punch some grim without a hassle? Junior looked at me oddly. Well, I guess we all wanted to do that when we got our aura for the first time. He scooped up the money. Word of warning, kid. Don't let the new strength go to your head. Grim have been killing trained huntsmen for centuries. I didn't know you cared. I flashed him a cheeky smile. I would rather your lean end up in my pocket than some Grim's stomach. He rolled his eyes. But you got two options if you don't want to go venturing out of the city. He pulled out his scroll, widening it to show a map of the kingdom. Over by Beacon, and to the north we got the Forever Fall Forest. Opposite, to the south, we got the Emerald Forest. Both are more or less the same, but the Emerald Forest gets culled more frequently than the Forever Fall, but both are relatively safe compared to the wilds. Why does the Emerald Forest get more attention? Beacon uses it for their entry tests. Throw a bunch of kids in there, fight their way out or something. He waved his hand. They don't technically own it, but most folks who would even consider going there stay away around that time of the year. Beacon, the Huntsman Academy, where they train kids to fight Grimm. Ah. I rubbed my chin. I guess if they're going to train kids to fight monsters, the best test is to in fact, fight said monsters in a contained environment. I nodded my head. Can't really blame them for putting kids through a thing like that when monsters literally beat on their doors. What's up with Forever Fall then? Another place Beacon likes to take their students for training. The tree's sap there is really expensive, but not many people are willing to go into Grimm territory to get it. Teachers take a few classes there in their early years, gather a bunch of sap, and sell it to interested buyers to fund some school stuff. Junior explained. Actually, that sounds interesting. The sap, anything particularly noteworthy about it? Very sweet, apparently not that unhealthy either. Something about it makes it better than regular sugar or other comparable things around. Other than that I don't know much. He scratched his head. Usually always a market for it if you want to grab some jars. He really does know a lot of stuff off the top of his head. Information broker indeed. Alright, thanks for the info. I tossed a bit more lean on the table before leaving. It was surprisingly easy to make it to this Forever Falls forest. The entrance to and from that connected to the city wasn't particularly guarded. Granted, there were huge fuck-off guns on the walls, and guards at the gate, but they didn't even bat an eye when I said I want to go in. Guess it's more common than I thought. Beautiful. I muttered as the forest came into view. It was red. Almost unnaturally so. The grass on the ground, the leaves on the trees, all of it was the same red coloring. There was no way in hell this was a natural evolution. Still, it was a breathtaking sight. I contemplated taking Artoria here for a date, a picnic would be absolutely lovely. I don't think Meridia or Scathack would be interested in that kind of thing. Taking in the surroundings, I eyed a tree with a small nozzle coming out of it, looking primed for sap harvesting. Though, as I got closer, it looked a tad rusted, perhaps worm as well. Well, it seems like this was abandoned some time ago. I jiggled it slightly, and turned the nozzle on with a bit of force to overcome the rusted mechanism. I stared at it intently as finally, a small drop of sap emerged from the faucet. Quickly, I scooped it up with my finger and brought it closer to my eyes for inspection. The bright red color of the sap was surprising, but otherwise it didn't look off-putting. Hesitantly, I licked it. Holy shit. Yeah, that's sweet. It was like, I had eaten an entire candy bar in a single drop, but without that bloated feeling. I took out a small jar, putting it under the faucet and giving it little tap to get the sap flowing a little better. What do you think, waffles or pancakes? Waffles, definitely. Would go better with that little bit of crunch. I can just imagine all the possibilities. I didn't have that much of a sweet tooth, but I definitely enjoyed sweet things. Would go well with some ice cream, maybe even some varieties of cake like cheesecake. Which was odd because sweet on sweet usually detracted from either dish, but this sap was something wonderful. Grab more of it. Don't gotta tell me twice. I took out a few more jars, cutting some small holes into the trees and tried my best to wedge a sort of extractor into it so the sap would drip down into my jars. Basically a piece of metal to direct the flow of the drip. Ooh, need to find some acorns to bring back. Looked around, brushing away the leaves on the ground. Hopefully these trees are something that can be replicated back home. No idea what mechanisms created this kind of tree, but perhaps I can research it when I have more time. I brought out Sir Wiggles, having a bright idea. Think you can grab me more of these? I held out an acorn for him to get a good look. The familiar link between us told me he understood as he bolted off in another direction. I take back what I said about Sir Wiggles. You're such a glutton. Pot, meat kettle. Never said I wasn't. I said with a laugh. Kneeling I scooped up a soil sample, both around a tree and a bit further away. I labeled them before putting them away in my hat. Look alive, we got company. Yeah, I noticed it too. I grumbled, standing up as a familiar black creature approached me. Though only when it got surprisingly close to me. It doesn't possess the normal feelings of a living being. What did the lass call this, a Beowulf? Yeah, and I only skimmed the book I got. Supposedly a weakling in the Grimm hierarchy. It kind of looked like a traditional werewolf portrayed in popular media. I watched its lumbering steps as it broke out into a sprint at me. Well, let's test some stuff out. I summoned the boosted gear and immediately noticed a small change. It felt lighter was probably the best word. Not its weight, but its existence wasn't as constrained. It felt like, if I hadn't achieved balance breaker already, it would have been much easier. The thing snarled as it got close, clawed hands swiping at me. I didn't move, my aura flared into a shield as its claw tried to cleave into my flesh. It stopped without any effort on my part, and I just admired the mystical phenomenon up close. With my aura out in full throttle, I flared my circuits. With a nod to myself, I made the mental note that nothing felt out of place there. If anything, they burned less from use than normal. It makes sense, I suppose. Magic circuits are a pseudo-nerve system that extends from the soul. Aura is the manifestation of the soul, and supposedly provides a certain healing factor on activation. It's probably offsetting the pain and burning from using the mystical organ. Was so used to it at this point that this didn't really mean anything. Interesting interaction though. Weird, I kind of felt that. The Grim attacking or the aura in general? The Grim, it was like an echo, but yeah. Odd. I grabbed the thing and slammed it to the ground with enough force to indent the hard surface. Decently sturdy, blunt damage probably not the preferred method of dealing with then. I muttered. It struggled, snarled, or otherwise thrashed under my grip. Intelligence seems lacking, perhaps a sort of pre-programmed instinct. I twisted its arm back slowly, watching it still struggle, but it didn't even change its expression as I pulled it back much further than it should have been able to. Doesn't react to pain, or perhaps it cannot feel pain. Pain is an evolutionary trait for living beings to survive. While I can't say that every living thing across the infinite realities feels pain, it is a dominant trait in every world I know about. Boost. I said quietly as my physical abilities doubled and I ripped the arm off its body. An inky black liquid dropped to the ground, seemingly its blood. Thoughts, Drake? Nothing wrong with the boost, nor anything extraordinary. Seems we're good to go there. I nodded along, inspecting the arm. This thing doesn't have proper bone structure, I mean, it has bones, but they look like an afterthought in its whole design. I threw the arm to the side and picked up the Grim again. It tried to bite at me, but my aura blocked any kind of haphazard attack on its part. Yeah, this thing is definitely not alive. The old man was correct in calling it a construct, but that probably didn't do it justice. It is a facsimile of life. Dawnbreaker flew out of my ring, hovering nearby, not reacting. Yeah, no life nor unlife to be found here. Grabbing the sword, I stabbed into its stomach. Magical energy. I muttered. This thing exists from magic. The faint sensation of magical energy wafted from its body. It makes sense, but to have confirmation that magic is prevalent here was something to mull over. The magic's holding it together, they bring together the container to mimic life, organs, bones, that sort of thing. I can only imagine when the corresponding parts like the heart take damage, the magics that make up the creature try to heal or sustain it but are unable and it collapses. It isn't that any of its internals are vital, but it was designed to be a reflection of a true living creature. Fascinating. Who made these things, and for what purpose? I suddenly had the eerie though that whatever created something like this on such a worldwide scale was not a simple being. Yeah, this world isn't as simple as I first thought. Dawnbreaker slammed down into its head, letting it dissipate back into magical energy and drift back to the world. I was lost in thought for a moment before taking out the vial of dust, uncorking it and letting a tiny bit spill out onto my palm. Jesus fucking Christ. I felt a sharp pain in my head at invoking the name of God. The taboo woven into my devil bloodline. What's wrong? You're usually good about not saying his name. I clenched my fist, throwing the bit of dust into the wind. This dust, it's crystallized mana. I fell to the ground, staring up at the sky. I don't understand. Crystallized mana is not a natural phenomenon. Mana, the lifeblood of a world, the most abundant form of magical energy. It pulsates out, spreads and returns to the planet. It is not supposed to clot up and crystallize like this. Something is seriously wrong here. What does it mean? Well, I don't think I've ever walked on a dead planet before. I stared up at the broken moon in the sky, an oddly apt reflection of the world I now found myself on. I looked up at the broken moon, admiring its surprising beauty. I think it was closer to the planet than I was used to, that or much larger than my own back home. You okay? Yeah. I ran hand through my wet hair. I'm good. I found a nice little pond to take a dip in. Put up a bounded field and just wanted to relax. Just surprising. Like knowing people die, then see a dead body for the first time in person. Worlds died. Just like every other living thing in existence, they eventually meet their end. Be it the heat death of the universe they exist in, or their natural time is over. Natural causes, or something kills them. Worlds eventually die. I've known about parallel worlds that get pruned every second of the day while new worlds are then created to fill their place. But I've never walked on a planet that was on its last gasping breath. How much longer does this place have? I mulled the question over. I'd be conservative and say a few thousand years. That's not too bad. When a planet looks at billions of years as a blink of an eye, a couple thousand is absolutely minuscule. I shook my head. Shouldn't it be more noticeable? It depends. I pursed my lips. Don't know what happened here, but the dust is basically like clotting blood. There is still enough mana in the air from the dust sprouting out of the ground everywhere that it's nearly impossible to tell on a first look that anything is wrong. Give it a few more centuries, I'm sure people will start to notice that crops are growing less, forests are starting to decline, deserts expanding, that sort of thing. Then again, many people don't venture out of the kingdoms much from what I've seen. Perhaps that's already happening and they're just oblivious. The population here is much lower than my home presumably, so it probably won't even be an issue for a very long time. It's sad, but it doesn't seem like anything worth dwelling on. While blunt, it's true. Yeah, I'm just processing is all. Not like I'm going to sit here and mourn a world I never knew. I dipped my head under the water. Very clean and refreshing, I had made sure to check it before getting in. And, well, dust is quite the find. It should be sprouting for a few more centuries before it starts to show signs of diminishing in a noticeable capacity. Going to load up on it to bring back home? That was the thought. I stood up, grabbing a towel I had hanging on a tree nearby. Should be good for Rin, and I think Zelretch would be excited for the find. Crystallized mana is something findable back home, but it is extremely rare. Granted, the stuff back home would be much more potent than the stuff here due to the fact that our world is still going strong. Quality versus quantity. Putting my clothes back on, I laid out a bedroll. I didn't really feel like heading back to the city and finding a hotel or something. I would enjoy the clear sky and sleep under the stars tonight. I yawned, opening my eyes up to the morning sun. Still couldn't get over how stunning this area was. Definitely one of my favorite places I've discovered away from home. Going to show off so many pictures when I get back. Oh, that reminds me. I gathered all my stuff and went to check on my little jars of sap. They were practically overflowing as I got to them. Waving my hand, I created a portal that brought me back to a little alley near Junior's club. I know it was early, but I kind of wanted a drink. It's 6 p.m. in some world, right? That's a healthy way to look at it. Drake said dryly. Not like I'm going to kill my liver or anything. Devil biology to the rescue. Walking in the familiar door, some eyes shot towards me but they seemed slightly less intrusive than before. There were tons of people running around, setting up posters, redecorating, that sort of thing. I sat down at Junior's bar, watching from the corner as he was directing people every which way before coming to me. Didn't think I'd see you for a while, kid. He sat his hands on the counter. Whatcha need? Can I get a drink? I asked. Wouldn't mind another of those strawberry sunrises, maybe a hit of something stronger added. Strawberry sunset then. He nodded. Little more infinite. He said idly, fetching all the stuff with practiced ease as I set some money on the counter. You know, we don't usually have people coming in this early for drinks, even if we're open. Just coincidence, I don't usually get started this early even when I do drink. I waved him off. Just had a long day yesterday. Well, you made it back in one piece. He shrugged. Grim give you any trouble? Asking if I saw any abnormal activity. I raised an eyebrow. He smirked slightly. I wouldn't be remiss to hear something like that, but it's not like I got people coming to me for stuff like that. Sorry to disappoint, only saw a few Beowulfs here or there. My fingers wrapped around the glass he set in front of me. Got some sap though, pretty tasty stuff, thanks for the recommendation. I put a small jar on the counter, pushing it towards him. A little thanks. He blinked looking it over. Hey, kid, I appreciate it. He seemed genuinely enthused. What's up with you redecorating? Mistral tournament is coming up, always draws a crowd. Mistral tournament? I asked. I'm pretty sure Mistral is the name of the kingdom on a continent to the east. He looked at me weirdly. You haven't heard of the Mistral tournament? It's probably the biggest event on Remnant next to the Vital Festival. Ah, Remnant, that was the name of this world, I remember now. From a small village, didn't really hear about the outside that much. Huh. He commented. Well, basically it's Junior. Roman burst out the back room. My boys managed to snag the preliminary odds for the. He paused staring at both me and Junior. Oh, hey kid. Junior took off his glasses, rubbing his eyes. Roman, why don't you just broadcast to the entire kingdom? Oh, quit your whining, kid won't spill the beans, right kid? Roman pulled up a stool next to me. Betting pool? I asked. Ha, quick on the uptake. Roman smirked. Keep this under wraps and I'll give you some good betting advice. He tipped his hat. Pfft, who am I gonna tell? I rolled my eyes. Besides, everyone knows Roman Torchwick is a law-abiding citizen, there's no way he would engage in some illegal betting. Roman let out a small laugh, gesturing for Junior to get him a drink. Well, cat's out of the bag now. He took a sip of his own drink and spun around in his stool, putting his elbows on the counter as he stared at the club. One of my favorite times of the year, so many suckers wanting to get separated from their hard-earned lean. Is this tournament every year? Roman turned to look at me, then at Junior who just shrugged. I was telling the kid about the tournament when you came over. Village boy over here never heard of it before. Well well. Roman took his hat off, setting it on the counter. Let Uncle Roman tell you all about this beautiful time of the year. By all means. I gestured for him to continue. Alright, so you got this worldwide tournament hosted in Mistral, and it's got these brackets for age groups, but no one gives a crap about most of them. Most eyes are on the youth division ages 16 to 20. It's considered the place to look for the up-and-comers, where the young huntsmen in training can prove their worth. Where the less connected may get an invitation to attend one of the prestigious academies around the world. Ah, poor kids and those with hopes of grandeur go to compete to maybe grab a higher-up's attention. I hazarded a guess. Got it in one. He nodded. The academies aren't exactly cheap. Most can't afford them if they don't get scholarships or whatnot. Roman added. Anyways, we get the kids in those age groups go and beat the crap out of each other for entertainment. Why that age group though? 16 is generally the earliest one can get accepted into an academy, with 17 being the norm. And the schools don't really take in students past 20 years old, considering it not worth teaching them that late since most graduate by the time they're 20 or 21 anyways. That made sense, they're looking for the best age to teach kids how to fight. The prize money is pretty nice too. Roman added. Prize money? I perked up. 30,000 lean. Roman nodded. Nice and tidy little bit there, could set someone up for a decade if they were conservative. How's the competition look? I rubbed my chin. There's a favorite, one Pira Nikos the. He waved his hands flippantly. Invincible girl. With an eye roll he took another drink. Well, she's decent for her age, but as green as the grass in the Emerald Forest. Does she attend an academy? Roman blinked for a moment. Oh right, keep forgetting you're a bumpkin. He laughed. It's frowned upon for kids already in academies to compete. There was a bit of contempt in his words. Miss Invincible Girl already racked up 3 consecutive wins, one more and she sets the new record, one of the reasons this tournament is so popular this year. Ha! I had some thoughts. What are the requirements to enter this tournament? Open to any challengers. Roman eyed me. What? Want to try your luck? He laughed. Hey, I could win. I huffed, taking a drink. Sure, kid. Roman laughed. Do you need some kind of identification to participate? I asked. Just standard stuff, why? Roman asked. I may or may not have entered the kingdom illegally. What do you mean, don't wanna? He stared at me incredulously. Empty your pockets or I'll shoot. He shook his gun for emphasis. Nice gun, what kind of bullets it got? Why the hell should I tell you? He seemed more and more confused with my manner of speech. So not dust bullets, and looks like a run-of-the-mill small arm. I nodded. Tell me, why did you think it was a good idea to point a shitty gun like that at someone with aura? He paused, realization dawning on him. Oh. Oh, indeed. I deadpanned. Well, this is awkward. He lowered his hand. Can we pretend this didn't happen? You know, I appreciated the balls on this guy. Tell you what, you help me find this address and I'll walk away without you having to swallow each bullet one by one. I held out my piece of paper. He took the piece of paper happily and stared at it. Why do you need to go to Roman's hideout? He looked up at me blinking. I mean, I've never heard of this place. Wait, are you one of Roman's henchmen? No. Sweet merciful gods. I sighed. Just take me there, I have business with him. Yes sir. He saluted, and I followed him down a few alleys. It was surprisingly not very far. I probably could have found it if I searched around a little, but whatever. It was pretty nondescript, a warehouse in a sea of warehouses and similar looking buildings. The idiot led me inside and I was immediately greeted to the familiar sight of an orange-haired thief. Oh, kid, you made it. He was leaning on a table, smoking a cigar. And you found one of my minions. More like he found me. I said dryly. Roman sighed. Red, what did you do? And nothing, sir. I was just. He tried to rob me at gunpoint. I deadpanned, interrupting the now named Red. Roman face-palmed. Just, go back to work. Yes sir. Red happily took the chance to run away. I hope that isn't the bar for your employees. Roman actually let out a laugh. He had the face of someone counting in their head. 12th time, he's done something like this. Really? And you still keep him around? I was a bit flabbergasted. No, you don't understand. He chuckled before continuing. I'm waiting until it blows up in his face. That guy is the luckiest son of a bitch I've ever met in my life. This wasn't even the dumbest stunt he's pulled, and so far, there isn't even a whisper of his face being flashed around any police station. Seriously? Let me put it like this. He cleared his throat. He tried to rob the deputy headmistress of Beacon. Roman could barely keep a straight face. Never arrested, never even handcuffed before. The authorities don't even know his name. Have you tried using his ridiculous luck to my advantage? Of course. He sighed. Didn't seem to work. No, his luck only kicks in to save himself. Honestly, the only reason I've kept him on is because the betting pool we have going on. Got a lot of lean riding on some turnouts and I want my money. He seemed in a genuine good mood. Anyways, I'm sure you didn't come here to talk about my little minions. You want your papers, right? Well, my money certainly wasn't a donation. Roman smirked, gesturing for me to follow as he led me further in towards another room in the warehouse. We walked in and it was like a completely different building. Cubicles everywhere, printers, their version of computers, people walking around like it was an office. This is where the magic happens. Where all our raiding the veil bureaucracy for our illicit gains occurs. Question. I raised my finger up. Why are you showing me this? Seems a bit stupid. Arrogant. Roman finished my thought. Kid, do you really think anything here can lead back to me? He raised an eyebrow. Worst case, the police come here and shut everything down. Spend a minimum of 6 months filing through everything to get a few simple charges on my minions who would be out on bail and disappearing under new names before anything could happen. I guess I shouldn't have doubted you there, but why are you showing me this? I questioned him again. Seems like a hassle and trusting even if nothing could harm him. It would still cost some money and be a hit if his operation got taken down. Alright. He held his hands up. I was wanting to recruit you, thought maybe showing you the business would be enticing, but maybe I played this wrong. Recruit me, really? You hardly know anything about me. Well, when I say recruit, I meant build you into someone I could use. He leaned it against a nearby desk. Do you have any idea how hard it is to find useful minions? I have met Red. I deadpanned. That is true. He nodded. But, you got a lot of aura, and you seem like you got a good head on your shoulders. Honestly, that would take you pretty damn far in this city. But you also remind me of a young me, that's priceless right there. I think your priorities are a bit skewed. I sighed. So, what, you want someone else to watch your back? I heard you got a partner or something already. Watch my back. He let out a chuckle. That's a good one, kid. There's only one person I trust with my back, and he's standing right in front of you. What about your partner? I trust the lean I pay her with. He replied. So you have no one then? I don't need anyone else, kid. You'll learn someday, the only person you need to care about is yourself. He shook his head like I was naive. But I had another reason for wanting you here. Well, I'm all ears. I crossed my arms. Okay, so how serious were you about the Mistral tournament? About half serious. I wouldn't mind going for the prize money, why? I'm glad you asked, my young protege. He stood up, swinging his cane, hitting a blackboard that spun around showing lots of numbers and several pictures and dates. Not your protege. Not with that attitude. He didn't seem fazed by my denial. You see, the Mistral tournament uses a certain system to randomize the fights. You hacked the system and want to rig the fights, maybe set me up in a position to take advantage of it for some reason? He paused, staring at me. You just have to steal my thunder, don't you? He raised an eyebrow and a smirk rose up on your face. Just what I would expect from my protege. He nodded in approval. Got it in one, kiddo. I just need a face to plaster everywhere, and yours is decent enough. It helps that I like your style too. Because it's similar to his. I'm flattered. I drolled. But isn't there the issue of winning the fights? I'm sure from his perspective I'm a village boy who just got aura. I'm glad you asked. He waved his hand. You see, there are always a set number of buys in the tournament every year, up until the top 18 that is. Isn't that going to draw a ridiculous amount of attention? That is the plan. He said happily. You see, I want you to grab all the attention for one moment. He took out a piece of paper, handing it to me. When all the cameras are on you, I want you to say that then you can forfeit or whatever. I unfolded the piece of paper. Go fuck yourself, Lil Miss Malachite. Roman Torchwick. A smile crept up on Roman's face, it was clear he was stopping himself from bursting out laughing. Let me get this straight, you are hacking one of the most popular sporting events of the year, just so you can tell someone to go fuck off. I asked incredulously. I know. He raised his hands. Not to mention she's the crime boss of Mistral's largest gang. I know the concerns you have, like what happens if you... I'm in. Roman just looked at me in confusion. What? I'm in. I pocketed the piece of paper. She's a very powerful person, someone who would be able to grab you way before you could get out of Mistral, and she isn't someone to be lightly crossed. You are going through so much effort just to tell someone to fuck off, how could I not be a part of this? I said in all honesty. Kid, you really are one of a kind. He let out a deep laugh, more genuine than I've heard before. Seriously, I'll make you my protege, you're perfect. I'd rather be paid. Brothers, damn it, you're perfect. He laughed even harder. Alright. I do have plans in place to get you out. I don't leave my people high and dry like some common vagrant. Wait, you only need me to get to the top 16, right? Yeah, literally no work on your part. What if I want to win? Kid, I know you're feeling pumped up from getting your aura. I rolled my eyes. I'll agree to your terms if you don't interfere with my fighting after I say my part for you. He paused, mulling over my words. Whatever, kid. He shook his head. I'm not your babysitter, she won't be able to touch you during the tournament, too many cameras, I guess I'll have my people ready for when you get your ass kicked. I feel like there are a ton more details to work out, but why are you going through all this trouble? Because, fuck her. He replied. Fair. I nodded. But what's the real reason? I raised an eyebrow. The corners of Roman's lips curled up. Now, why would I go and spoil that? So, I'm basically a distraction. I mused. If it makes you feel better, I will very much look forward to your role in this little job. That does make me feel better. Really? No, let's talk about how much I'm getting paid. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.